Ram Krishna Hari. We offer our namaskars at the feet of Lord Vitthal and all the Varkari saints before we come to the next session of Sant Muktabai's Tatiche abhang. Sant Muktabai is gently trying to coax her elder brother Jnaneshwar Mauli, who has closed himself inside the hut, isolating himself from the world because he is angry, he is disturbed, he is dejected at the way the man who is supposed to be the representation of the society of that time has treated him. To an extent, the man has even slapped Mauli. Somewhere deep down, Mauli is hurt by this. So he isolates himself in his hut, closes the door, and Sant Muktabai is trying to tell him through her compositions, which are spontaneous, but which have got deep philosophical significance not only for him, but through him it is a message for all of us. She is trying to tell him of the ways of the world, but she says you should not be bogged down by that. You should not deter from your spiritual mission, and that is upliftment of those who are ignorant, who want to be awakened but do not have a proper spiritual master. Through her abhang, she is trying to tell him to open that door which he has closed. Allegorically, she means to say the door is a blank space which we have created in ourselves, where we do not want to face certain realities and we do not want to wake up to the truth. So through Mauli, being a divine play, through Mauli she is trying to tell us, Tati Ughda, open that door. Tati means door in Marathi, and that is why these abhangs are called Tatiche abhang. In this abhang, let's see the first line. Sandhi kalpana upadhi, तीच sadhula samadhi. This line has got three words which are of very great importance. One is kalpana, second is upadhi, and third is samadhi. In the first part, she says, Sandhi kalpana upadhi. She's telling Mauli to give up this imagination. Kalpana means imagination, because that imagination is becoming an upadhi. Upadhi can be understood to be a limitation. Now, how can this limitation come? You look at something virtual and you start believing, your mind, your imaginative power starts believing that that which is virtual is real. And you start following your life on that basis. So, someone like Muktabai is required to make us realize that what we are seeing is not real, it is virtual. It is our mind which is suggesting that. So that is why the first part, Sandhi Kalpana Upadhi, she is advising Mauli, leave that imagination that the world hates you. The small group of people of Arandhi who are treating you in a certain way does not represent the world. So she says, stop this imagination which has become a limitation for you, and that is a true sign of a saint. So she says, Teech sadhula samadhi. Samadhi is not shutting your eyes and sitting in complete isolation, cut off from the world. Samadhi is where you give up that internal conflict. The mind keeps trying to trick you, so that imagination will keep coming and that will try to keep posing problems for you. You have to conquer that internal world, then only you are in the true samadhi state, and then only you are called as a sadhu, is what she tells him in the first line. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Krishna tells us the definition of samadhi in many ways. One of the ways of samadhi for spiritual seekers is what Muktabai has said in this statement, in this line which she has in her abhang, that a sadhu, one who is a spiritual seeker, can attain samadhi if he gives up imaginations, if he gives up that feeling that I am the one, I am the body and I are one. That's what Lord Krishna says. So when Uddhava asks him that this is okay for a sadhu, but what about a normal ignorant householder? a materialistic person, a person who is in the world, who is struggling with his day-to-day activities, how does he get samadhi? He may not have time because he's got his householder duties. So Krishna says it's very simple. Whatever duties he does, if he offers it to me, all his karmas, if he offers it to me, even if he's drinking a glass of water, if he says it is offered to me, that is Lord Krishna, he says that itself is samadhi. In fact, a householder can remain in samadhi throughout the day and even in his sleep, whereas one who is on the spiritual path has to work hard for it. So here samadhi has got two different meanings for a householder and for a spiritual seeker, a renunciate. So Mauli's message to us from the tone or the abhang of Sant Muktabai is that we should give up our imaginations and start looking at real as real, not understand virtual as real. Coming to the second line, वाद घालावा कवणाला अवघा द्वैताचा हो घाला. She says, with whom are you going to argue? See, someone says something to us. It hurts us. The words are very She says in one of the earlier abhangs that the words create a lot of disturbance in our mind. They are like weapons. Shabda Shastra, she says. But she says, what can you argue with people? With whom are you going to argue? Because you are going to be a person or a person with a mission of preaching people about Advaita, where there is oneness. When you say you have an argument or you want to talk back to someone, you have immediately transcended that and come to the opposite philosophy that there is Dvaita, because you argue only if there is some other person beside you. So she says, Vad means argument. With whom are you going to argue? Who all are you going to say? Vad ghalava kavanala. Avgha dvaitacha ho ghala. This is all a world of duality. Everyone in the world here is still groping in that duality syndrome. Here Muktabai is trying to have a silent message passed on to Mauli. Maybe it happens in all families, that we do have a silent communication with our family members, maybe our brothers, sisters, parents, or a husband, wife, children, and so on. We have a silent communication because all of us have had a similar experience. So here Muktabai is saying, with whom all are you going to argue? Because everyone, the world is going to behave like this. She is possibly referring to the treatment meted out to her parents, where because her father and mother were given Dehant Prayashchit, these children were left without any parents. So she feels that the treatment given to her parents was unjust. But who is going to argue with whom? Because ultimately when you argue with someone, you are going to ultimately break that bond of oneness and again come into duality. And she says that's not what we are here for. Our incarnation has got a teaching to be made to people that there is only one. There is no two. There is nothing which is dual. This oneness has a beautiful concept. One comes between the numbers 0 and 2. So indirectly she is even trying to say that 0, if you tell people that everything is 0, people will not comprehend it. Because 0 has no value according to the material world. In the spiritual world, you say Shunya. It has no importance. It has nothing inside it. Everything ultimately comes to a 0. It's nothing. If you go to 2, it's duality. So when you say God or the Supreme Consciousness or the Creator, whatever you may call it, is 0, people will not accept. How can you say the creation is 0? There's so much around us. You cannot even convince people that there are 2 gods, so 2 also cannot be possible. Duality is not possible for us. We have to preach, she says, of oneness, and therefore 1 comes between 0 and 2. So when you say God is 1, it is, people can comprehend it. When you say God is 0, people will not be able to comprehend. And when you say there are 2 gods, people will be confused. So that is why she says, Avgha dvaitacha ho ghala. It's a question, it's a complete game of duality. We have to prove to people that there are nothing other than us. There is oneness, we are not different. She explains this again in the next line also. पुढे उमजे ना काय, उडत्याचे खाली पाय. She says, does anyone know what the future holds for us? No one knows. We have no idea what the future is. No one knows what the next moment is going to bring in. No one knows what the next day is going to bring in or what's going to happen after a few years. So, pudhe umze na kai, we don't know what is the future. But she says one thing, udtyache khali pai. One who is flying very high today will have to come down one day. That's what she is trying to tell us. She gives us this line in a beautiful way where we compare it metaphorically to a bird. We need to learn this lesson from a bird. A bird which flies very high still knows it has to only land on its feet. It cannot land on its wings. So she tries to tell us subtly that do not be too proud of what you have achieved today. Udtyache khali pai. Tomorrow you have to come down. This is what is the entire cycle of life. This is what she tries to tell us through the medium of Mauli. Next line she says, Ekaman cheshta kari bhute bapude shezari. So she says this all is all the trick of the mind, as Sant Tukaram Maharaj says in one of his abhang. He talks about the mind as fajit khor. It's a cheater, it's a trickster. The mind plays games, the mind plays tricks, the mind brings all these thoughts. And that is why she says, how can you blame people? Bhute bapude shezari. Bhute means all the living beings, all the human beings who are, they are all very ignorant. We can't call them innocent, but they are ignorant of what the reality is. We have got such people all around us. And she is again trying to communicate to her brother silently that haven't we faced this in our childhood? Even before we were born, we were given this treatment. This treatment was given by society to our parents, to our elder brother. We have faced it. So she says this is the way the mind is. People will keep thinking. The mind is supposed to be drawn into all these controversies, and that is why it is supposed to be a trickster. So she says, Bhute bapude shezari. All people around you. Shezari is the ones who are around you. All of them are ignorant. So what can you expect them to talk of any intelligent conversations? What can you expect them to talk about oneness? They all still think that I am the body and this one is another body, that is a third body. They do not know that we are all connected. Next line she says, Avghi Ishwarachi karni काय तेथे केले कोणी. She says, don't look at it as an event which has just happened. It's not a coincidence. It's all a divine strategy. Because unless someone has planned it, this cannot be executed. And who is the planner of this entire sequence of events which are taking place? It's the Creator, whom we all call as God. So she says, Avghi Ishwarachi karni, it is all His divine play. He has done all this. He has made that man insult you. He has made that man slap you. He has given you this feeling of depression. He has given you this feeling of anger. He has given you this feeling of shutting yourself in isolation. This is all His play. It is all His act. You are not doing anything because you and He are one. We all are one. That's what she says. Last she says, Punha Shuddha Marga Dhara Tati Ugdha Jnaneshwara. Here again she is reminding him silently, subtly, that what were you doing earlier? Punha Shuddha Marga Dhara means again come back to your original pure path. Does it mean that he has deviated from there? No. She says that you have forgotten that you were talking about oneness at Paitan. You have proved it with so many of your miraculous deeds. So forget all this Maya which has taken over you. Your association with this man who has spoken certain things to you, certain words to you, has hurt you. This association is materialistic, but it is done on purpose by the Creator. It's a divine strategy so that you get more enforced to come out with your mission of spiritual upliftment of all those who are ignorant. So she says, Punha means again, Shuddha Margadhara, come back to your original path. You deviated there, you went because Maya took over you. As Shirdi Sai Baba also says, this Maya is very, very dangerous. When someone had come to him, Shirdi Sai Baba's disciple, who was a great businessman, had come to him and told him, Baba, I am planning to have a business of so and so, and I want you also to be a partner in it. Baba laughs loudly and says, this Maya will not leave me. Even if you sit idly for 5 minutes, Maya will take over you. She will grasp you. She will see to it that she clings to you till you shake her off from you. So same way, here Maya has taken over Mauli for some time, where he has forgotten that he is having a different mission altogether, and he has proved it at Paitan. So that is why someone is required to remind him that this is not your path is something else. And so Muktai tells him, Punha, again, Shuddha Margadhara, come back to your original pure path, Tati Ugda Jnaneshwara. Open the door and come face the reality. So this abhang tells us about imagination, how it can be dangerous, how it can make you believe something which is virtual as something which is real. That is why we end this Tatiche abhang with a line from Sant Namdev's abhang, where a line says, Kalpanechi badha न हो कोणे काळी, हे सर्व संत मंडळी सुखी असो. राम कृष्ण हरी.
सांडी कल्पना उपाधी, तीच साधूला समाधी. वाद घालावा कवणाला, अवघा द्वैताचा हो घाला. पुढे उमजे ना काय, उडत्याचे खाली पाय. एक मन चेष्टा करी, भूते बापुडी शेजारी. अवघी ईश्वराची करणी, काय तेथे केले कोणी. पुन्हा शुद्ध मार्ग धरा, ताटी उघडा ज्ञानेश्वरा. ताटी उघडा ज्ञानेश्वरा, ताटी उघडा ज्ञानेश्वरा.